Today, we uncover the shocking truth about healthy yogurts in UK supermarkets. Walk into any supermarket and you'll see them lined up under bright lights. Small pots with calm colours, clean labels, and promises that sound like they've already done the thinking for you. Gut health, high protein, no added sugar, organic, kids. It feels like the safest decision in the entire shop. But that feeling is exactly what this aisle is built on, because yogurt doesn't need to look unhealthy to mislead you. It just needs to sound responsible enough that you stop questioning it. Most people don't stand there reading every label. They're tired, in a rush, grabbing something quick for breakfast or something easy for the kids. And brands know that moment better than you think, so they design products that pass the test before you even turn them around. There was a time when yogurt was simple. Milk, cultures, maybe a bit of fruit, that was it. Now, some of these pots are so engineered, so carefully rebuilt behind the scenes, that the word healthy starts to feel like part of the marketing, not the reality. So we've gone through the major products currently sold in UK supermarkets, and we're going to expose the 12 healthy yogurts you need to avoid. Then I'll show you the few that are actually still worth buying. But before we get into it, if this kind of breakdown matters to you, hit that hype button right now. Every click helps push this to more people, which means more pressure on these companies to stop hiding behind clever wording and start being honest about what they're selling. So hype the video, share it with someone who grabs yogurt without thinking twice. And let's get into it. Number 12, Activia Vanilla Healthy Yogurt. A lot of shoppers make the same mistake with Activia. They hear gut health, see live cultures, clock the calm, responsible tone, and mentally stop the investigation before it has begun. In many minds, the pot has already been filed away as one of the good ones. A vanilla yogurt becomes a little wellness habit, almost something you are meant to feel mature for buying. That early surrender is where Activia gets its edge. Once the digestive well-being language lands, the rest of the build tends to fade into the background. Yet the background is where the story gets less flattering. Water shows up, modified maize starch shows up, sweeteners show up, flavouring shows up. The cultures may be real, but the whole pot is still a carefully managed fat-free vanilla yogurt leaning hard on one respectable promise. Nothing here explodes off the label, and that is part of the point. A cultured, wellness-coded yogurt gets handed extra moral credit, while the more reconstructed parts of the recipe are quietly treated like paperwork. No added sugar sounds wonderfully clean right up until the sweeteners enter the room and the spell weakens. You end up with a product that sounds as if it belongs in a good habit tracker, not in the same supermarket world as artificially smooth vanilla pots. So the countdown starts with the gentle version of the scam. Soft language, responsible mood, tidy science, and a product that sounds cleaner than it really is. Further down the shelf, a louder kind of cheek takes over. The next pot wants the thrill of dessert, and the praise reserved for self-control. Number 11. Müller Light Toffee Yogurt. Toffee belongs in the pudding conversation, not in the I'm being sensible conversation. Müller Light knows that perfectly well and plays straight through it anyway. The whole appeal here comes from having it both ways. Dessert flavour on the spoon, diet language on the lid, and just enough nutritional respectability to help the shopper feel they have stayed on the disciplined side of the line. There is something almost brazen about the setup. Light, fat-free. No added sugar, added vitamins. Every phrase is there to reassure the shopper that they are still being controlled, still being good, still keeping things in line. Meanwhile, the actual flavour has more in common with the rewards section of the supermarket than the healthy breakfast section. A product like this relies on a very specific human weakness. People love being given permission. Permission to indulge a little while, still telling themselves the choice was controlled and clever. Once you read the side, the performance looks even more deliberate. Water, modified maize starch, sweeteners, flavourings, stabilizers. Nothing here says plain dairy with a touch of sweetness. Everything says carefully managed imitation, a product assembled to scratch the dessert itch while still wearing a halo. The overall mood is sly, inviting you to feel as though the rules have already been rewritten in your favour. Not hidden danger, not complicated science. A simple, cheeky bit of category fraud. A toffee-flavoured pot should have to admit what it is. Instead, it borrows the language of dieting and sneaks into the healthy aisle through the back door. Another yogurt nearby borrows something different, not diet virtue, but the weight of tradition. Number 10. Müller Greek-style lemon yogurt. Watch how much work two little words can do. Greek style still sounds sturdier than low-fat flavoured yogurt, and brands know it. The phrase carries memories of thickness, seriousness, and substance. People hear it and picture something with more backbone, something closer to a traditional food and farther away from a flimsy supermarket invention. That mental picture is incredibly valuable. Before the customer has seen a single ingredient, the product has already gained weight in their mind. A lemon yogurt dressed in Greek style feels more adult, more anchored, more convincing. Then the side panel brings the furniture into view. Water, modified starch, pectin, sweeteners, flavouring, lemon juice from concentrate. Suddenly, the supposedly sturdy character of the pot looks much more stage-managed. A lot of yogurts on this list are stretching health language. This one stretches heritage language. The label is effectively renting honesty from a food tradition and spending it on a product that still needs a fair amount of help to hold the pose. Even the thickness being implied is less a natural quality than a carefully produced effect. That matters because texture is one of the first things people mistake for quality in yogurt. If it sits heavily enough, many assume it must be better made. Shoppers do not only buy ingredients, they buy associations. They buy what a phrase suggests about the pot before the spoon goes in. Here, the wording suggests more substance than the formulation can genuinely support. Farther up the countdown, the marketing gets more modern and more obvious. One pot strips things out dramatically, then spends the rest of the recipe patching the experience back together. Number 9. Light and free strawberry yogurt. Some products are sold like redemption stories. Light and free is one of them. 0% fat, no added sugar, high protein, Greek style, live cultures. It reads like a list of problems already solved. A little moral cleanup operation packed into a yogurt pot. Now comes the part most shoppers do not linger on. The product still has to taste sweet, sit thickly on the spoon, and feel cheerful enough to survive the breakfast table. Once you remember that, the ingredient list starts making perfect sense in a much less flattering way. Oligofructose, potato starch, tapioca starch, modified maize starch, pectin, carrageenan, sweeteners. The lid boasts about removal. The side reveals repair work. The accusation changes here. Forget dessert camouflage and rented heritage. Light and free is all about subtraction followed by reconstruction. The sales pitch celebrates everything taken away. The recipe records everything needed to stabilize the result afterwards. One hand strips the product down for moral effect, the other hand rushes in behind the curtain to make sure nobody notices what the stripped-down version would actually feel like on a spoon. People often hear healthy and imagine simplicity. Plenty of supermarket yogurts move in the opposite direction. The cleaner the front becomes, the busier the background gets. Light and free is a good example because it practically stages that contradiction in public. Nearby, another pot avoids all that obvious moral signalling and chooses a subtler route. It flatters the shopper instead. Number 8. Ísey Skyr Vanilla Protein Yogurt. The trap here is ego. Not vanity in a loud sense, just the small private satisfaction of feeling you picked the serious option. Ísey Skyr is very good at offering that feeling. Icelandic, high protein. Original recipe, fat-free, no added sugar. Everything about the pot is composed, cold, restrained, no circus, no cartoon fruit, no noisy health theatre. That sort of branding does not chase the gullible shopper. It chases the shopper who enjoys believing they are harder to fool. The message is subtle, but clear. This is for the discerning person, the one who can tell the difference between disciplined food and supermarket fluff. Once that tone lands, a surprising amount of trust comes with it. Then the details pull the yogurt back toward the same reality as several others on the list. Water appears. Modified maize, starch appears. Pectin appears. Sweeteners appear. Flavouring appears. Calm packaging has not magically produced a pure dairy experience. What it has produced is a sense of superiority that helps the formulation get a softer interview. The manipulation here is social before it is nutritional. The pot is selling composure, good judgment, a better sort of choice. Customers are invited to feel discerning and then often stop examining the rest with the same intensity they would bring to louder brands. A few steps along, a single word creates an entirely different emotional shortcut. No superiority there, just soft, wholesome trust. Number 7. Yeo Valley Organic Mango Pot. Organic can make shoppers sentimental in seconds. Put that word on a yogurt and the whole product seems to breathe differently. Cleaner farms, better treatment, fewer shortcuts, gentler food. Whether or not all of that is fair in any individual case, the emotional result is undeniable. Suspicion eases off quickly. Yeo Valley knows how much mileage there is in that mood. Organic. Protein pot, mango, strained yogurt, no flashy promises, no pseudo-scientific swagger, no extreme health language. The pot sounds relaxed, mature, faintly pastoral. It feels like something the modern supermarket has not quite managed to spoil. Plenty of people hear organic and mentally round the whole yogurt upward before they know much else about it. Open the ingredient panel and the modern supermarket pot reappears. Sugar is there, tapioca starch is there, flavouring is there, nothing scandalous in isolation. The frustration comes from the way the organic label encourages people to round the whole product upward in their minds. A sourcing term starts doing the work of a full food endorsement. Organic can tell you something real about inputs and methods. It cannot by itself transform a sweetened, thickened fruit yogurt into plain-spoken food. Yet the label invites exactly that leap. The pot ends up borrowing innocence from the field while still behaving like a modern supermarket construction. The next entry lives in a different emotional universe altogether. Meadows and farms disappear. In their place comes the glow of being modern, aware, and on the right side of cultural taste. Number 6. Alpro Blueberry Cherry Yogurt. A lot of products have to earn approval. Plant-based products often arrive with some already banked. Dairy-free, vegan, added calcium, added vitamins, and a broad atmosphere of modern virtue hover over the whole thing before anyone has even checked the numbers. That built-in goodwill changes everything here. What gets lost in that generosity is ordinary comparison. Put the cultural halo to one side and the product looks far less commanding than the packaging mood suggests. Sugar remains significant enough to matter. Protein is modest. Stabilizer and flavoring help keep the experience in shape. The pot is not some obvious nutritional knockout flattening the dairy aisle on merit alone. A lot of shoppers assume a healthy yogurt alternative will give them a stronger nutritional trade than this. Here the supermarket is selling lifestyle absolution. The yogurt alternative sounds aligned with a set of values, and that alignment does half the lifting. A shopper who might interrogate sugar and protein very closely in a dairy yogurt can become strangely forgiving once the product sounds culturally approved. Blueberry and cherry stop being just flavour and start functioning like part of a cleaner, more current identity package. Moral shortcutting runs the whole section. No fake discipline, no rented tradition, no repair work after subtraction. Higher up the list, symbolism fades and utility takes over. The next product wants to be judged less like food and more like equipment. Number 5. GetPRO Banana Protein Pouch. The pouch is the giveaway. Before you read a single word, the product has already announced that breakfast is no longer the point. This is yoga mat, locker room, glove compartment food, 25 grams of protein, magnesium, vitamin B9, muscle support, reduce fatigue, on the go. Even the fact that it can sit outside the fridge for hours pushes it away from ordinary yogurt culture and toward performance logistics. Once food starts speaking that language, common sense tends to collapse. People begin grading it like a tool. Is it efficient? Is the protein number high enough? Is it convenient? Those questions crowd out the more basic ones. Does it resemble straightforward food? Would you call this a simple, healthy yogurt if the sports framing vanished? Does the pouch make the product sound more impressive than the spoon would? Even the squeeze format tells the shopper not to slow down long enough to notice how strange the whole setup has become. Strip away the gym vocabulary and the answer becomes clearer. Yogurt and quark are being used as the base for a performance snack padded with modified starch, pectin, sweeteners, mineral concentrate, and added vitamin. Banana becomes more of a fitness-friendly flavor badge than a real food reassurance. The whole thing is engineered for usefulness first and food identity second. That gives the entry more force than the ones below it. A yogurt has been reformatted into branded fuel, and shoppers are expected to salute the protein count while ignoring how far the category has drifted from recognizable breakfast. There is still a stronger shortcut than fitness culture in a British supermarket, though. The next pot borrows medical seriousness. Number 4. Benecol Peach Cholesterol Yogurt. Put cholesterol lowering on the label and the whole room changes. A peach yogurt suddenly sounds less like breakfast and more like intervention, like a small step in a bigger health plan. Few phrases in the chiller switch off casual skepticism more effectively than that. Serious problem named, serious product implied, case closed. Except the case is not that simple. Benecol has a specific function. It is designed for people who need to control blood cholesterol. The guidance makes that quite clear. It is not intended for people who do not need to control cholesterol, and it may not be nutritionally appropriate for pregnant or breastfeeding women and children under 5. Already the pot is much more specialized than the ordinary healthy yogurt mood surrounding it on shelf. Now look at how easily that nuance disappears. Familiar format, fruit flavor, chilled dairy aisle, health-friendly language, and many shoppers flatten the whole thing into one of the really healthy ones. Sugar remains in the recipe, modified starch remains in the recipe, flavoring remains in the recipe. The authority of the cholesterol claim does so much reputational work that the rest gets an unusually gentle read. For that reason, it climbs this high. The misunderstanding it invites is larger than a standard fruit pot illusion. Medical seriousness gets borrowed, the edges blur, and a targeted functional food starts benefiting from the looser glow of general wellness. Premium retail can pull off a different kind of distortion altogether, one that sounds less clinical but can be just as persuasive. Number 3. M&S Rhubarb Greek-style yogurt. Imagine the same ingredient logic in a loud plastic pot at a discount supermarket. Many shoppers would read it much more coldly. Put it in a premium fridge, give it rhubarb instead of a louder fruit, wrap it in calmer typography, 0% fat wording, Greek-style seriousness, live cultures and healthy choice cues, and suddenly it seems as if better judgment has already happened upstream. Marks & Spencer's real power shows up here. The store environment becomes part of the recipe. Customers are not only tasting yogurt, they are tasting curation, class-coded restraint, and the soothing fantasy that premium retail has done the filtering on their behalf. The pot barely needs to argue because the shelf is already arguing for it. In that setting, even a fairly ordinary sweetened fruit yogurt starts receiving the sort of interpretation that would never survive in a noisier supermarket. Then the numbers arrive and the glamour drops. Per 100 grams, sugars sit at 10.6 grams, while protein sits at 5.2 grams. Rhubarb is there, sugar is there, corn flour is there. No shocking twist, which is exactly the point. A fairly ordinary sweetened fruit yogurt receives a much more flattering interpretation because of where it is sold and how it is dressed. No wild gimmick, no loud scam, just premium store manipulation working exactly as designed. One entry beats it by using size rather than class to lower resistance. Number 2. Actimel Immune Support Drink. Tiny bottles change moral judgment. Actimel's genius sits right there. Miniature automatically reads as measured, controlled, sensible. Add immune support language, live cultures, vitamins, and a daily ritual tone. And what you have is no longer treated like a sweetened dairy drink at all. It becomes a little health habit, almost a dose. That transformation happens fast. A large flavoured yogurt drink would face much harsher questions. This little bottle slips under them because the format itself feels disciplined. It looks like something you do for yourself or your family as part of a routine, not something you drink because it tastes good. Now strip away the ritual and read the contents like you would read any other sweet dairy product. Sugar, liquid sugar, dextrose, modified starch, flavorings, added vitamins. Protein is modest. In other words, the bottle receives the moral treatment of a wellness shot, while carrying a much less saintly profile than many shoppers would expect from that setup. Actimel earns number 2 because the disguise is elegant. Framing does almost all the work. Shrink the container, speak softly about support, add a few scientific cues, and a sweetened drinking yogurt starts sounding like a disciplined act of good behavior. Only one entry is more frustrating than that, because the final move targets tired parents, not health-conscious adults. Number 1. Onken Kiddos Kids Fruit Yogurt. Lunchbox panic is the real setting for this product. Not a laboratory, not a farm, not a gym, not a premium food hall, a rushed morning, bags open, very little time, a parent trying to choose one decent thing quickly without starting another argument in the kitchen. That is exactly where Onken Kiddos wants to meet people, and that is why it takes the top spot. Look at the wording and the calculation becomes obvious. Real fruit, source of protein, source of calcium, vitamin D for immune support. No flavorings, no colors, no preservatives. It sounds warm, harmless, child-safe, quick to approve. A tired parent can look at that and think, fine, this seems decent, which is precisely the reaction the product is chasing. No complicated science story is needed because something much more powerful is already doing the work. Parental goodwill. Then the ingredient list lands like a thud because there is nowhere to hide. Yogurt, fruit, sugar, vitamin D. That is all there is. Added sugar sitting openly inside a children's yogurt sold through the language of care and goodness. The brand has even said it adds 4.2 grams of sugar per 100 grams and still expects real fruit plus vitamins to keep the moral argument afloat. That takes number 1 because it strips the whole supermarket scam down to the bone. No elaborate disguise, no premium veil, no medical aura, just parent trust being exploited in plain sight. Different products on this list use different tricks. This one uses the most understandable human weakness of all, trying to make a decent choice quickly for a child. The disgrace running through this countdown is not sameness. One yogurt fakes discipline, one rents heritage, one removes things dramatically and repairs the result, one flatters the discerning shopper, one stretches a farming word into full product innocence, one leans on plant-based virtue, one turns yogurt into gym fuel nonsense, one borrows medical seriousness, one lets the premium store atmosphere flatter a fairly ordinary pot. One shrinks a sweet drink into a little ritual. The winner uses parental trust as cover. Different roots, same insult. The lid sounds healthier than the spoon deserves. That gap is where the money is made. So next time you are standing in front of that chiller, do not let the front win the argument for you. Turn the pot around, read the rest, and tell me which one on this list annoyed you most, because the ugliest part of all this is how ordinary it now looks. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.